for taking this interview. Do you want to introduce your main focus on your study first, or your main research?
Sure. My name is Gregg Brazinsky, and I'm an associate professor of history and international affairs here at the Elliott School and the George Washington University. And the focus of my research has really been on the Cold War in Asia, including Korea and China. I wrote a book called Nation Building in South Korea about the role of the United States in bringing about the transformation of South Korea from a very poor and autocratic country at the end of World War II to a prosperous democracy by the 1980s. And that book appeared about 10 years ago, and more recently I published another book entitled Winning the Third World, which covers Sino-American competition in the Third World during the Cold War. And most recently I'm working on a new book. My new book is about Sino-North Korean relations during the Cold War, and I have a slightly different perspective on Sino-North Korean relations than a lot of other scholars have. I'm looking a lot at the cultural and economic relations between China and North Korea during the Cold War. Many scholars believe that China and North Korea were always clashing during the Cold War because they had different interests. But I'm actually arguing the opposite is also true to some extent, that there were very deep cultural ties and very deep emotional ties that came about as a result of their history, their shared history during the Korean War.
How do you think your study benefits the GW Institute for Korean Studies in general?
Well, I think my study and the kind of work I do is beneficial to the GW Institute for Korean Studies in a variety of different ways. First of all, because I look at Korea's role in the world, and I look at Korea's relationships with other countries. I think my work can help connect the GW Institute for Korean Studies to some of the other institutes and areas of interest at the university. For instance, GW also has a Confucius Institute that has a strong interest in China. My research on China and North Korean relations can help to bring about better synergies between faculty here at GW who work on China and faculty who work on Korea. And of course, we're also at the Elliott School of International Affairs, one of the best international affairs schools in the country. And I think by having scholars who write about and teach about the history of Korea in the 20th century and how Korea both influenced and has been influenced by the rest of the world is something that can help, is something that can really help to raise the profile of the Institute of Korean Studies and also enhance the connections between our Institute of Korean Studies and some of the other institutes and think tanks in the area that are interested in Korea's role on the world scene.
So a lot of your focus has been on diplomacy, politics, culture, economics, and how do you think this kind of studies is connected to Korean humanities or Korean cultural studies, which is the main focus of GWIKS?
Right. Well, I think diplomacy and politics are very deeply interrelated with the humanities, especially the approach I take to it. First of all, I take a historical approach to understanding Korea's diplomacy and its international role. So I spend a lot of time looking in archives, doing research in rare books, using the same kinds of methodologies that scholars in the humanities use. And my interest in Korea's international relations isn't only on high-level state-to-state relations. It's also on intercultural relations. How has South Korean culture been influenced by its interactions with the United States? And how is South Korean culture influencing other parts of Asia? So I think the humanities is, you know, the humanities is obviously a very broad category, but I think one of the things that the humanities is always focused on is on, you know, peoples and ideas, and how peoples and ideas went across borders. So yeah.
What do you hope that GWIKS can contribute to Korean studies this?
I think the GW Institute for Korean Studies has the potential to make GW the hub of Korean studies in the Washington area. GW has more tenure-track faculty who work on Korea than any other university in the Washington area, and our faculty cover a wide variety of different areas. We have people working on Korean history, Korean politics, Korean language, Korean literature, and so it's really a dynamic place GW is really a dynamic place to look at Korea from a variety of different angles, and I think the GW Institute for Korean Studies can bring about a synergy between these different scholars. Also, an important aspect of the GW Institute for Korean Studies is its commitment to outreach. We want to outreach to policymakers, we want to outreach to local K-12 institutions, and I think GW has a unique capacity to do this because it has people who understand Korean foreign policy and Korean diplomacy. It has people who understand Korean arts and Korean history, and these all, I think, these all should be aspects, or these all should be components of GW's outreach to the broader community in Korean studies.